Have you ever considered that your memory might be the most masterful and most dangerous storyteller you will ever meet? We treat the past as a fixed monument, an unchangeable anchor holding us in place. We tell ourselves, "This is what happened, therefore this is who I am." But what if that anchor isn't made of iron but of smoke? What if the past is not a historical record, but a narrative? A story you are choosing to tell yourself, right now, in this moment. This is the fundamental error that keeps most people trapped. They believe they are reading a history book written by someone else, when in fact they are the author holding the pen. I once worked with a young man, a brilliant software engineer named David. He had co-founded a promising startup in his late 20s. It failed spectacularly. Not a quiet decline, but a public, fiery crash that was picked up by the tech blogs. He lost his investors' money, his co-founder's friendship, and, in his mind, his entire identity. When he came to me years later, he was working a low-level coding job, terrified to take any risks. He introduced himself by saying, "I'm the guy who burned $10 million. That was his story. That was the anchor. He had chained himself to a single event, a single chapter, and refused to write another word. The failure was a fact, an event in time, but his identity as the guy who failed was a narrative he rehearsed every single day. The great Stoic philosopher Epictetus gave us the master key to unlock these chains over 2,000 years ago. He said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." The market downturn that sank David's company was an external event, outside of his control. The betrayal he felt from a key partner was, ultimately, another person's action. These things happened, but his conclusion, that he was a failure, that he was unworthy of a second chance, that his past defined his potential, was a judgment. It was his view, and that is where all of our power lies, not in changing the events of the past, but in mastering the meaning we assign to them in the present. So here is a practical application. Take out a piece of paper. At the top, write down a defining negative event from your past, the one your inner storyteller loves to narrate. Now, draw a line down the middle. On the left side, list the objective facts of what happened. Be brutal in your simplicity. I lost the money. The relationship ended. I was fired. No emotion, no story. On the right side, write the story you've been telling yourself about it. I am a failure. I am unlovable. I am not good enough. Look at the two lists. Can you see the difference between the event and the judgment? The left column is the past. The right column is a prison you are building for yourself today. I will leave you with this question to carry with you. What is the story you are telling yourself about your past? And are you the hero of that story, the victim, or simply the narrator who has forgotten he holds the pen? Imagine you're driving a powerful car down an open highway. Your destination is far ahead, a point on the horizon full of potential. Now, imagine you spend 90% of your time staring intently into the rearview mirror. You're fixated on the road you've already traveled, obsessing over every pothole you hit, every wrong turn you almost made, every car you passed. What is the inevitable outcome? You will crash. This is precisely how most people live their lives, navigating the future while staring exclusively at the past. This isn't reflection. It's a form of self-sabotage, a tyranny of the rearview mirror. In my years in the tech industry, I saw this constantly. I myself was a victim of it. After my first major success, a piece of software that sold for a figure that shocked me at the time, I became paralyzed. Every new project, every line of code, every business decision was measured against that one towering achievement. "It's not as good as the last one," my mind would whisper. "You were lucky then, you can't do it again." The past success became a ghost that haunted my present efforts. Simultaneously, my past failures were equally loud. I'd replay investor meetings that went poorly, product launches that fizzled, hires that turned out to be disastrous. I was driving my career forward by looking at a composite image of past glories and past disasters, and it was exhausting. I was reactive, anxious, and my focus was perpetually fractured. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote extensively on this folly. In his letters, he speaks of the foolishness of borrowing trouble from the past. He essentially says that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Replaying a past failure is to suffer it 100 times over. The event itself is done. It has no power. The only power it holds is the power you grant it by giving it space in your mind, right now. You are resurrecting the ghost and allowing it to haunt the living. The past has no agency. It cannot act upon you. It is a collection of inert memories. The act of rumination, of constantly reliving and rejudging, is a choice you are making in the present. Here is your practical exercise to break this pattern. It's a technique I call mental scheduling. You cannot simply command your mind to stop thinking about the past. The mind abhors a vacuum. Instead, you must manage it. For 1 week, give yourself a designated 15-minute window each day. Let's say from 6 p.m. to 6:15 p.m. This is your past review time. If a painful or distracting memory from your past emerges at 10 a.m., you don't fight it. You calmly acknowledge it and say to yourself, "This is not the scheduled time for this. I will address this at 6 p.m. Then you gently redirect your focus to the task at hand. When 6 p.m. arrives, you sit down and you consciously engage with those thoughts for the full 15 minutes. What you will find is that by containing the act of rumination, you strip it of its power. It no longer controls your day. You are re-establishing command over your own mind, deciding when and where to engage with the ghosts of your past. Ask yourself this. What road have you already traveled that you are still staring at? And what magnificent view of the road ahead are you missing because of it? We have a deep-seated habit of seeing our lives as a movie in which we are merely a character. We believe the script has already been written. Our backstory, our upbringing, our failures, our traumas, dictates our actions. We say things like, "I am this way because of what happened to me." We speak as if our personality is a finished product, a stone tablet carved by the events of yesterday. This is the most profound abdication of personal power there is. You are not the character, passively reciting lines. You are the author. The past provided the context, the setting, and the backstory for the first few chapters. But the pen is in your hand right now, and the next page is blank. I remember a mentee, a woman named Sarah, who was a senior executive at a large corporation. She was incredibly competent, but had been passed over for the CEO position twice. She came to me convinced she had hit her ceiling. Her story was that she was not a natural leader. Why? Because she had been a shy, awkward child. Because she was an introvert in a culture that prized extroversion. Because a former boss had once told her she lacked executive presence. All of this was her backstory, and she was playing the role of the capable but not commanding number 2 perfectly. The script she had written for herself had no path to the corner office. She was a character in a story about her own limitations. This is where we can draw on the wisdom that predates even the Stoics, from Aristotle. He argued that character is not something we have, but something we create through habit. We are what we repeatedly do, he famously said. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. The Stoics adopted and refined this. Your identity is not a noun, it's a verb. It is forged in the fires of your daily choices. Sarah's identity as not a leader was reinforced every time she chose to stay silent in a meeting, every time she deferred to a louder voice, every time she told herself the story of the shy little girl. She wasn't born a certain way, she was becoming that way through her actions and inactions. The practical work here is what I call identity-based habit formation. Instead of setting a goal, you will start by defining an identity. Don't say, "I want to lose 20 pounds." Say, "I am a healthy and energetic person." Don't say, "I want to write a book." Say, I am a writer. Once you have defined the identity, you ask a simple question. What does a person with this identity do on a daily basis? A writer writes, even if it's just one paragraph. A leader speaks up, even if it's just to ask one clarifying question in a meeting. Your task is not to achieve the big, audacious goal overnight. Your task is to cast a single vote for your new identity today. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Accumulate enough votes, and you will build a new identity. The past loses its grip not by being ignored, but by being rendered irrelevant by a mountain of new evidence. So, I ask you to reflect on this. If you were to stop being a character in your story and become the author, what is the very next sentence you would write for yourself through your actions today? There is a simple, yet profoundly powerful tool at the heart of all Stoic practice. I call it the Stoic fork, because it forces you to separate everything you will ever encounter in life into one of two categories. It is the single most effective technique for disarming the power of the past. This tool is the dichotomy of control. On one side of the fork are the things that are not up to us. External events, the actions of other people, our reputation, our health to a degree, and, critically, everything that has already happened. The past is the ultimate external. On the other side of the fork are the things that are up to us, our judgments, our opinions, our choices, our actions, and the will to act. That's it. That is the entire list of what you command. Peace of mind comes not from controlling the world, but from recognizing this distinction with absolute clarity. Let me tell you about the lowest point in my entrepreneurial career. I was betrayed by a business partner I considered a close friend. He went behind my back, leveraged my work, and started a rival company, taking our biggest clients with him. The event itself nearly destroyed me. The financial loss was immense, but the sense of personal violation was far worse. For months, I was consumed by rage and a desire for revenge. I replayed every conversation, every warning sign I missed. I was drowning in the past event. I was trying to control something on the wrong side of the fork. The betrayal was done. His actions were his own. The market's reaction was out of my hands. My suffering came from my desperate, futile attempt to mentally wrestle with things I could not change. The shift happened when I picked up my tattered copy of Epictetus is Enchiridion, and was struck again by its opening line. Some things are in our control, and others not. I took out a journal and drew the fork. Under "Not in my control," I wrote, "He betrayed me. The money is gone. The clients left." Under "In my control," I began to write. My judgment that this is the end of my career, my choice to seek revenge or to rebuild, my decision to learn from this about trust and contracts, my actions today, tomorrow, and the next day. The moment I distinguished between the event and my response, the emotional chains loosened. The anger didn't vanish, but it was no longer in command. It became data. The despair was still there, but it became a circumstance, not a life sentence. This is the blueprint for your own practice. This is the great separation. Every time you feel the pull of a past regret, a past failure, a past hurt, you must stop and apply the Stoic fork. Mentally or on paper, place the event on one side and your potential response on the other. The event is a dead thing. It is over. It has no more power than a rock on the side of the road unless you choose to pick it up and carry it. Your response, however, is alive. It is the source of all your power and all your future potential. By focusing relentlessly on what is in your control, your thoughts, your actions, your character, you stop being a victim of your history and start becoming the architect of your destiny. I want you to consider this deeply. What past event do you continue to fight with as if you could change it? And what would happen if you laid down that weapon and focused all of your energy instead on the choices that are in front of you right now? Thought alone is not enough. Insight is useless without implementation. You can understand intellectually that the past doesn't define you, but if your daily actions continue to reinforce the old identity, nothing will change. Your mind can accept a new truth, but your body, your habits, and your nervous system are still running an old program. Therefore, crafting a new identity is not a matter of positive thinking. It is a matter of deliberate and often uncomfortable physical action. You do not think your way into a new way of acting. You act your way into a new way of thinking. I had a mentee who was crippled by social anxiety. His story was that he was awkward and bad with people. This belief was born from some painful experiences in high school. Now in his 30s, he avoided social gatherings, networking events, and even speaking up in team meetings. His actions were perfectly aligned with his identity as an awkward person. We could have talked for years about the irrationality of his belief, but it wouldn't have moved the needle. The identity was not held in his logical mind, it was embedded in his habits. So, we designed a program of what the Stoics might call virtuous practice. The goal was not to become a confident person. The goal was to perform the actions of a confident person, regardless of how he felt. His first assignment was simple. Once a day, he had to make eye contact with a stranger, a barista, a cashier, and offer a simple, "Good morning." That was it. His mind screamed, "This is terrifying. They will think you are weird." He did it anyway. He was voting for a new identity with his behavior. The next week, the task was to ask a simple, low-stakes question, like, "Is this a good coffee?" The week after, it was to give a genuine compliment. Each action was a small, manageable deposit into a new identity bank account. He wasn't waiting to feel confident to act. He was acting, and the feeling of confidence began to emerge as a byproduct of his actions. He was literally building a new past for himself, one small, courageous action at a time. The old narrative of the awkward high school kid began to fade, replaced by the immediate, tangible evidence of the man who initiated conversation every single day. This is the core of what it means to build an iron mind. It is a philosophy of action. Seneca famously wrote, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." I would offer a variation. Identity is what happens when intention meets action. Your desired identity, as a leader, an artist, a disciplined investor, a patient parent, remains a fantasy until it is validated by a pattern of behavior. The practical exercise for you is to define a single, microscopic habit that aligns with the future self you wish to build. Not a goal, a habit. If you wish to be a writer, your habit is to write 100 words a day. If you want to be a courageous person, your habit is to do one small thing that scares you each day. The action itself is almost irrelevant. The power is in the repetition. It is the act of proving to yourself, through evidence, that you are no longer the person you used to be. Now, reflect on this. What is one single daily action you could take that would serve as an undeniable vote for the person you want to become? And are you willing to do it even when you don't feel like it? If the past is a story and the future is a concept, where does life actually happen? It happens here, now, in this breath, in this single, indivisible moment. This is not a mystical or spiritual platitude, it is the most practical reality you will ever grasp. The reason the past has such a suffocating hold on us is because we are not fully present in the only moment where we have any power. We allow our attention, our most precious and finite resource, to be hijacked by the ghosts of yesterday or the anxieties of tomorrow. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, spent his life in the midst of war, plague, and betrayal. His saving grace, which he wrote about relentlessly in his private journals, was his ability to retreat into what I call the citadel of now. He wrote, "Every man's life is sufficient for himself, but thine is nearly finished. And yet thou dost not reverence thyself, but dost place thy happiness in the souls of others." He was reminding himself to stop looking for validation or peace in things outside his control. including the unchangeable past. His power was in his present response, his present judgment, his present action. When you are fully engaged in the task at hand, whether it's writing a business proposal, having a conversation with your child, or simply washing the dishes, there is no mental space available for the past to assert its tyranny. Rumination and regret cannot survive in a mind that is fully occupied with the present reality. I learned this the hard way. During the most stressful periods of building my companies, I was never where I was. When I was at work, I was worrying about problems at home. When I was at home, my mind was replaying a tense negotiation from the afternoon or pre-stressing about a board meeting the next day. I was a ghost in my own life. My body was present, but my mind was a time traveler, and it was stealing the joy and effectiveness from every moment. My burnout wasn't just a result of working too hard, it was a result of my mind being constantly fractured, fighting battles on multiple temporal fronts at once. The most potent tool for building this citadel of now is the practice of task monogamy. In a world that glorifies multitasking, this is a radical act of rebellion. It is the conscious decision to do one thing at a time with your full and undivided attention. When you are writing an email, close all other tabs. Turn off your phone's notifications. For those 10 minutes, the universe consists only of you and that email. When you are speaking with someone, put your phone away and listen. Listen not just to their words, but to their tone, their body language. Anchor your full consciousness in the space between you. This is incredibly difficult at first. Your mind will want to wander back to its old ruts, the mistake you made yesterday, the deadline of tomorrow. Your job is to act like a gentle but firm shepherd, continually guiding your wandering mind back to the present pasture. This practice, repeated daily, builds the mental muscle of focus. It is this muscle that allows you to choose where your attention goes, rather than letting the ghosts of the past choose for you. So, ask yourself this question. In any given hour of your day, how much of your attention is truly in the present moment? And what is the price you are paying for the time your mind spends wandering elsewhere? Our culture teaches us to hide our scars. We see past failures, traumas, and hardships as sources of shame, blemishes on our record that we must cover up or forget. We believe that a perfect, unblemished past is the prerequisite for a successful future. The Stoics teach the exact opposite. They teach us not just to accept our fate, but to love it. The concept is called amor fati, a love of one's fate. It is the practice of seeing everything that has happened in your life, especially the painful parts, as not just necessary, but desirable. It is the ultimate reframe, transforming the very things you thought were your greatest weaknesses into your greatest sources of strength and wisdom. Think of it like this. A blacksmith forges a sword not by gently polishing it, but by subjecting it to fire and hammer. The steel is heated, beaten, and folded back on itself again and again. It is this very process of stress and impact that burns away impurities and aligns the metal as structure, creating a blade that is both flexible and unbreakable. Your past hardships are the fire and the hammer. The scars they leave are not signs of damage, but proof of your tempering. They are evidence that you have been tested and you have endured. To wish away your past struggles is to wish away the very process that forged your resilience. I once mentored a woman who had been laid off from a high-profile executive job. She was in her 50s, and the shame was eating her alive. She saw it as a public declaration of her obsolescence. Her story was, "I am washed up. My career is over." For months, she hid from her network, ashamed to tell her story. We worked on reframing it, not with false positivity, but with the principle of amor fati. The layoff was a hammer blow, yes. But what did it forge? It forced her, for the first time in 30 years, to stop and ask what she truly wanted, beyond the next promotion. It severed her from a corporate culture she had secretly grown to despise. The failure gave her the gift of a blank page. The hammer blow broke the golden handcuffs. Slowly, she began to see the event not as an ending, but as a forced liberation. Today, she runs a successful consulting business on her own terms, and she often says that getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to her. She didn't just overcome the obstacle, she learned to love it for what it created in her. The practical application of this is an exercise I call the Stoic reappraisal. Choose a significant failure or hardship from your past. Now, instead of focusing on what it cost you, you are going to answer 3 questions in writing. 1. What specific, positive skill or character trait did this experience force me to develop? 2. What bad situation or path did this event, in hindsight, remove me from? 3. How can the wisdom I gained from this experience serve me and others today? This is not an exercise in pretending the pain didn't exist. It is an exercise in extracting the value from that pain. It is the alchemy of turning lead into gold. You are not erasing the scar, you are reinterpreting it. It ceases to be a mark of shame and becomes a map of wisdom, a testament to your strength. Now, consider this. What is the most difficult chapter of your past? And what if, within that very chapter, lies the secret to your greatest future strength? We have journeyed through the mind, dismantling the illusions that hold us captive. We have seen that the past is a story, that identity is a choice, and that power exists only in the present moment. Now, we must synthesize these principles into a practical blueprint. An architect does not build a great structure with wishful thinking. He begins with a detailed, actionable plan. This is the final stage, moving from philosophy to a daily practice of becoming. This is how you stop being a prisoner of your past and start being the deliberate creator of your future. This blueprint is built on 3 pillars: definition, action, and reflection. First, definition. You must get relentlessly clear on the person you intend to become. Not the things you want to have, but the person you want to be. Take out a journal and write in the present tense. I am a person who is disciplined, calm under pressure, and present with my family. I am a leader who acts with integrity and courage. I am an artist who creates every day without fear of judgment. Write a detailed manifesto for your future self. Describe their habits, their mindset, their principles. This is not a fantasy, it is a declaration of intent. This document becomes your North Star. Second, action. As we've discussed, identity is forged through the votes you cast with your daily habits. Based on your definition, you will now design a minimum viable habit for each trait. If your future self is disciplined, your starting habit might be to wake up 15 minutes earlier with no snooze. If your future self is a writer, your habit is to write 1 sentence. These actions must be so small, so simple that they are almost impossible not to do. The goal is not immediate transformation, but unwavering consistency. You are laying the foundation for your new identity, 1 small, unglamorous brick at a time. This is not about motivation, it is about building momentum. Finally, reflection. At the end of each day, you will conduct a brief 5-minute review, a practice straight from the playbooks of Seneca and Epictetus. You will ask yourself 3 questions. What went well today in my effort to become my future self? Where did I fall short? What will I do differently tomorrow? This is not an exercise in self-flagellation. It is a calm, objective analysis of the day's data. It is the process of a craftsman inspecting his work. It allows you to make daily micro-adjustments to your approach, ensuring that you are not just acting, but acting effectively. This daily feedback loop is what transforms effort into mastery. It keeps your past mistakes from yesterday from becoming repeated patterns tomorrow. This 3-part process, define, act, reflect, is a lifelong operating system. It is the engine that will carry you away from the shores of your past and toward the horizon of your potential. The past's grip on you is directly proportional to your lack of a compelling future vision. By creating one, and by taking deliberate daily action towards it, you are not just ignoring the past, you are making it obsolete. You are building a new reality so powerful and so present that the ghosts of yesterday simply have no place to dwell. You are finally and fully taking control of the narrative. You are becoming the author. The work is not easy. It demands courage, consistency, and a ruthless commitment to personal responsibility. But the alternative is to remain a character in a story you did not choose, forever anchored to a past you cannot change. The choice is yours. It always has been.